Okay, we are on Daf Yud Bet Amud Aleph in Sotheby's, broadcasting from Sotheby's. Don't worry, this is not going live. 12A1, after having just had the opportunity to see that codex up close and personal and to hear all about it, it was definitely one of the highlight moments of my Jewish life just now. That was very, very special. Baruch Hashem. Okay, so we are on 12A1. All right? You guys, you with me in 12A1? Okay, so 12A2. All right? We just got finished with discussing the Machloket, Rav and Shmuel. Rav and Shmuel, who argued whether or not Achashverosh was a smart king or a foolish king. And both of them prove that he's both smart or foolish from the same action. What is the action? That he invites the foreigners to come to the party before he invites those that are close. So one opinion says that he is a smart king. Why? Because he made sure to gather close the people that are far away, and make sure to put in that effort with them, whereas the locals, he could do that at any time, okay? And the second opinion says, no, he was foolish, because if those foreigners would ever attack him, who's his buffer? Who's going to protect him? Your inner sanctum guys. So how did he not make sure that those guys were covered before kind of reaching out to anybody else? It's interesting as well. Why? Because we have another machloket, Rav and Shmuel, also very similar to this. In the story of Egypt, when there's a king who forgets Joseph, two opinions. One says, Vayako melech hadash, a new king stood up. One of them said, no, it's not a new king. It's a king who forgot shenitchadshu gzerotav, that he made new laws for the people of Egypt, and that's why he's called a new king. So you see, also again the same concept, that they're arguing over the provenance, they're arguing over the actual goings on with regards to the king. Okay, let's carry on. The Gemara says as follows: Shalut Amidavet Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was asked by his Talmidim, why did the enemies of the Jewish people deserve to be destroyed? Now, we are not referring to the actual enemies of the Jewish people here that actually were destroyed. We know how many people did they kill in the story when they were able to stand up against the people who would have had them murdered. How many people did they kill? The Megillah says 75,000. And how many people did they kill the next day in Shushan? I think the pasuk says another 500. Chamesh meot ish. Right? So etc., etc. So the pasuk tells us they killed roughly 75,500 people. We're not talking about them. We're talking about us. Anytime the Talmud or the Chazal did not want to talk about something bad happening to the Jews, we just called it like it should befall on our enemies. So when you're asking that question, why did our enemies deserve to be destroyed? Instead of saying, why did we deserve to be destroyed? Because you don't want to talk that way, because it's like al tiftach peh the Satan, don't open your mouth to the Satan. So the Gemara asks, they asked him, well, what could they have done that would, was deserving of being destroyed? He said to them, you tell me, what do you think? He challenged the students. Because they enjoyed the party of that Rasha of Ahashverosh. The Gemara then, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai challenges them. Imken, shebeshushan yeharegu. The Jews that lived in Shushan, they should be the ones that should have had the gezerah against them to be killed. Shebechol ha'olam kulo al yeharegu. The Jews that lived in any other country that did not come to the party, why should they be killed? Amrulo, they replied back to him, Emor ata, you say, you tell us. Amar lahem, because they bowed to the tzelem, to the idol that was around the neck of Achashverosh, according to one of Haman. According to one opinion, according to another opinion, it was because they bowed down to the image, to the idol back already in the days of Nebuchadnezzar. Now the question one has to ask is, if that happened in the time of Nebuchadnezzar, why in the world are they getting punished for it now? According to the opinion that it had to do with Nebuchadnezzar, right? why would the Jews of now be getting punished for it? Nebuchadnezzar is how many kings ago? Let's see who remembers.
5.
Achashverosh. Who's before Achashverosh?
Darius. Not Cyrus. Darius.
Koresh.
Koresh.
Dariavish.
That was off.
Cyrus is Koresh.
Oh, right.
Right? Who's before Koresh, Dariavish?
Belshazzar. No, it was before.
Evil Merodach. Sorry, Belshazzar. Evil Merodach. And then Nebuchadnezzar. So you're 4 or 5 kings away from the story. It's so far, right? Come on. The answer is actually very interesting. And we'll come back to this in just a minute. We'll explain why they were being punished now. So a more simple interpretation of them bowing to the idol is the idea that the Jewish people bowed to the idol of Haman. Right? He wore an idol around his neck. And we know that there was a decree that everyone had to bow to Haman, and everyone did, except for one person, Mordechai. What do you know if it says only one person didn't bow? That all the rest of the Jews did. Okay? Amrulo, they replied back to him, what are you talking about? Does it make sense, right, that Hashem should show favor to the Jewish people if they actually bowed down to the idol? And they deserved to be destroyed. So then why would Hashem actually not destroy them? Amar lahem, hem lo asu el lefanim. They did not bow because they wanted to bow. They only did this because they were terrified of what would happen to them, either from Haman or from Nebuchadnezzar, however you want to learn it, right? But they were terrified of what would happen to them. So this was not a willing thing. Now this is very interesting because we're going to come back to this in just a minute, but the idea is that if someone challenges you to bow down to idols, right? What's halakha? There's 3 mitzvot that a person has to be yihareg v'al yahavor, die before transgressing. Adultery,
Bowing.
idolatry, and murder. Those are the big 3 that a person needs to die rather than transgress. However, and this is the thing people don't understand and don't realize, it's true that you need to be willing to give up your life and not bow. But what if you didn't? What if you did bow? Will we give you the death penalty? Let's say I put a gun to your head and I tell you kill Jack or I'll kill you. And you kill Jack. What's the bad thing going to do to you? You're a murderer. Are you allowed to murder him? No, you have to rather take a bullet than kill somebody else. Because the Gemara says, Sanhedrin, mi yemar tedama didach sumak tfe. Who says that your blood is redder than his? You're making a judgment call that you should stay alive and he should die to save your life. Who said? Maybe he's more worthy of life than you. You have no way of ascertaining that. So therefore, the act that you did is asur. But no bad deen in the world is going to give you a punishment because you're honest. Right. So what the Gemara is answering here is they were liable. They bowed down. But they bowed down under duress. They thought they were going to die. So what should they have done if they had the conviction of Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah? They go into the furnace of fire rather than bow. Mordechai decides he's going to risk his life and not bow. That's the right course of action. But for those that don't do that right course of action, they don't die for that. So therefore the Gemara asks, why were they not actually killed? The answer is because it was against their will. So they did it externally but not inside. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Asa imahem el lefanim. He dealt with them in that surface level. He made it look like they were going to die, but actually they did not actually carry it through. And that's what it says, Ki lo ana ina milibo. The Pasuk tells us that when a person, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu punishes a person, Hashem doesn't want to do it. He only does it in the absolute case where it's necessary. If it's not necessary, he's not going to do it. So therefore, in this case, where there was a get-out clause, because they didn't do it, it was against their will, he did not punish them with the destruction coming to its conclusion. The Gemara continues. Let's finish with this last piece. Where did the party take place? In the courtyard, ginat, which means the garden, bitan hamelech, okay, of the king's house, the king's palace. Rav and Shmuel argue as to how to interpret the pasuk. One opinion says that the innermost skies, they were in Chatzer. The second most level was Haraui Libitan, right? went into the palace, right? And the Arui Legina, those that are worthy of the garden, also brought it to the garden. Arui Lebitan, the highest level number 1, VIPs, they got a chance to come into private viewing in the Sotheby's. They got all the way in to the king's palace. So that's why it says the party was Bechatzar, Ginat, Bitan HaMelech. And really what they're playing off of is that it can't be in the garden, in the courtyard, in the house. It was one or the other or the other. And the Gemara answers, this party had 3 tiers with the VIP tables and the Magnum bottles that was inside in the Bitan. The Chad in one opinion says, Hoshivan bechatzer, Hoshivan bechatzer velo hichzik katan. The second opinion, thank you so much again. The second opinion says, Hoshivan bechatzer velo hichzik katan. He sat them, right, in the, what's it called? In the chatzar. That was his initial plan, to keep the people out. Unfortunately, or fortunately, it was a serious party, and then they spilled over into the Gina, to the garden, from the courtyard, and from the garden it was not enough, until he brought them into the house, and by the time all 3 areas were filled, there was enough to hold everybody in the party. And the Braita explains differently. Hoshivan bechatzer upatach lahem shte ptachim. He sat them where? In the chatzer, in the outermost quarter. But he opened the door and he allowed people, using doors, he allowed these doors, these openings, to be able to access the palace, to access the garden of the king, so they could circulate as well. But the party actually proper was in the chatzer. So we now have 3 opinions about the party of Achashverosh. So we're going to end with this, but extra credit goes to who the heck cares. Why are we arguing? A 3-way machloket, Rav, Shmuel, right? Well, it's a big machloket about how we had the party. It's wild. Ahlan sahlan. I gave you a big thank you before. We were so appreciative. Everyone absolutely was thrilled to be able to have this chance. One of the top Jewish moments of my life. Okay, so we have this question over here, right? Rav and Shmuel are arguing about the party of Achashverosh. Who cares?
Could it be the level of punishment?
Sorry?
The level of punishment, depending if you're on the outside, you're less.
I like that. So maybe we want to know how far in were they into the party.
Right.
So the Gemara is giving us that this party had levels. I want to share something different. What did we learn already about Achashverosh? With his mistake in calculation of years, he thought it was 70 years. He thought time had come and gone for God to redeem the Jewish people. He's never redeeming them again. So what did he do? He broke out
The vessels.
vessels of Beit HaMikdash. Hear me out. What else has a chatzer?
The Beit HaMikdash.
Beit HaMikdash. One of the opinions is bringing out that Achashverosh was staging the party. It's an even more of a finger in the eye. There's a chatzer, there's a ginat, there's a betan. The Beit HaMikdash also has a chatzer, and then it has the kodesh, then it has the kodesh HaKodashim, the innermost sanctum. So the opinion is bringing out, again, if we just got finished saying that the students of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai said they deserve to die for going to the party, you deserve to die for going to the party? Come on. What's the answer? It's a work party. No. Let me tell you how the party was laid out. Chatzar, Ginat, Bitan. You're supposed to understand, I think, from the connection, my chidush, that's... It was a desecration. Imagine someone made a party. It was a Beit HaMikdash destruction themed party. Come dressed up as a dead Jew or as a conquering Roman. How could you do that? So that was why the punishment was so severe. One last point I want to bring out. I asked earlier if they did this sin at the time of Nebuchadnezzar, why are they getting punished now?
When we say the Maaseh Abanim, Maaseh Avot,
You're very close. Because really, there's a line in Torah that says, Lo yumtu avot abanim. You can't be punished for your parents' sins.
we had an opportunity to do it, and we
But
did
it's
it.
the punishment of the king. It's his punishment of his descendants. So
Okay.
they're being punished because of his action. It's not you're being punished.
So I have a theory. I think maybe it's a little bit connected to that. Here's my theory. The pasuk says that for a sin, God holds on to that sin. He doesn't punish. Al shileshim ve'al ribeim. What does that mean? For 3 and 4 generations. Let's go through this one more time. After Nebuchadnezzar, we have Evil Merodach. After Evil Merodach, we have Belshazzar. Now, there's a whole bunch of kings, but Belshazzar, who rules for 3 years, Koresh, Daryavish, who ruled together for 4 years, that can't count for more than 1 generation. And in fact, what proves this point? The next generation after Belshazzar is Vashti. Right? So Shileshim they're getting punished now. The sin of Nebuchadnezzar is being held in abeyance for God to punish. 3 generations of 4. This is that generation. In the time of the Evil Merodach is 1, right? Sorry, Nebuchadnezzar is 1. Evil Merodach is the 2nd. Belshazzar, Koresh, Daryavish are the 3rd. And the 4th is Vashti, the daughter, the next generation after Belshazzar. So we're now in the 4th generation. But we have a problem. It says in one pasuk that God holds on to the sins of our fathers. Another pasuk says that God doesn't punish the sons for the sins of their fathers. The Gemara asks, what do we do with that? Answers the Gemara, when does it say the children are not punished for the sins of their fathers? When they don't do the same actions. When do we say that they're punished for their sins and the sins of their fathers? When they do be'ochzin ma'aseh avotihim, when they do the actions of their fathers. What did I just tell you about? What did they bow? They bowed to the idol of Haman. Now that they bow to the idol of Haman, they're being punished not only for bowing to the idol of Haman, but also for the punishment of bowing to the idol of Nebuchadnezzar. Right? Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen ve'amen.